No. Because he's on the freaking LSU bench. That's the way that works.
Welcome in to the MPW Digital Postgame Show. I'm Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio here with you. Jeffrey Wright will join us in just a second. The Georgia Bulldogs knock off the Ole Miss Rebels 52-17 in Athens tonight. All eyes on Jackson Dart's availability as he goes down late third quarter with at least what appeared to be getting dazed for sure. Looked like maybe a little more than that, but getting dazed for sure. There was talk of shoulder, collarbone issues. He did come back to the sidelines without any kind of sling or protective gear on, had his shoulder pads on. So good sign there just a few minutes after the game ends from a Dart health standpoint. As we get going, the podcast postgame show, always brought to you by DeadSoxy. We'll give you more on that in just a second, and this will be a podcast immediately after the show as well. All MPW Digital podcasts presented by Twisted Tea. More on them in a little bit as well. So a little bit on all that stuff. Neal, again, Jeffrey. I'll get to DeadSoxy in a second, but we were talking about it. It's in both our stories we have up. We have Rapid Reaction column up there at rebelgrove.com. Georgia, a couple times a year, when teams come in who are thought to be contenders, they give A games. They did it to Kentucky. Tonight, they did it to the Rebels.
Yeah. Ole Miss got the A game for sure. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jeffrey. You go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I my first thought, like when you're watching the game, is Ole Miss had the bad fortune of being on the field tonight when Georgia decided they were going to remind everybody, like, we're still that team. And, you know, I thought they came out and they threw a pretty good punch. I mean, I honestly thought their first drive of the game was one of the best drives they had all year. And I think maybe the reminder early was that drive was a great drive and it was still really difficult. And you kind of got the sense as soon as you saw Georgia on offense, and kind of my fears about Ole Miss's defense, which is if you are one dimensional, they're pretty good at coming up with a plan to stop you. But when you're as good as they are at both ends, you know, both running it and throwing it, and then you throw in tonight, I think that's probably the healthiest they've been on offense all year. You could have had the greatest game plan in the world. There was nothing Ole Miss was going to be able to do tonight.
Yeah, as we get into that, a couple quick thoughts. But first, speaking of the talent on the field, if you are interested in that from an Ole Miss standpoint, you can elevate your game day look with socks and financially support the Rebels. Every step you take shapes the future of Ole Miss athletics. Sign up for a sock subscription to get the exclusive Juice Kiffin sock. It's on the screen right now. You get it for free when you get a sock subscription. DeadSoxy.com. Choose a subscription to receive the latest in Ole Miss styles, and every month, or at an interval that best suits you. Take the next step, upgrade your socks, elevate Ole Miss. As always, stay Soxy. Yeah, you know, look, I mean, Jaden Williams went out there on the first possession. He was slated in at left tackle because of Micah Pettis being out. They started the rotation and the flipping around, and it did everything in a lot of ways to affect that offense as the snaps were bad there for a while from Reese McIntyre. They had Caleb Warren playing guard. They had Acker playing a lot of snaps. It was
Jeremy James went out and played tackle.
It was sort of a carousel on a night when you were getting a locked-in set of Georgia Bulldogs. That's the offensive side. We'll get through all of it. But then defensively, Georgia goes over 300 in the first half. They don't have a third down until the fourth possession. They scored on their first four possessions. They averaged almost 13 yards a play for most of the first half. You just saw such a size speed issue for the Rebels. Like, people keep going, oh, it's alignment and all these things. No, it was a complete just challenge and ineffective ability because of the talent gap that was on the field for Ole Miss defensively. You can't match up when you're that outmatched at a team playing its A game. And that's what you saw tonight.
They had no chance. 61 snaps, 611 yards. Do the math on that. That's 10 yards of play. You're not winning games giving up 10 yards of play. 311 yards through the air, 300 yards on the ground. Beck goes 18 for 25 for 306, 2 and 1. And the one hit his receiver in the hands. Then the rushing yards. Milton had 9 carries for 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. Edwards, 12 carries for 59 yards. I mean, just the list.
Guys, there's only two numbers that matter. They literally threw it for 311 and they ran it for 300.
Yeah.
They had, like, that's insane.
It was a mismatch up front, which is kind of what you feared it would be, and it was more of one than I thought it would be. there's a lot of talk about lack of speed, and Ole Miss's defense does absolutely lack top-end speed, but what got them today was the physicality up front. They just got beat up front on both sides of the ball, really. Offensively, Ole Miss goes for 352 yards, 173 in the air, 179 on the ground.
And basically like 150 of that on those two drives.
Yeah. Dart goes 10 for 17 for 112. Sanders goes 4 for 7 for 61. Judkins leads the way, 22 carries for 75 yards. If you want a smart-ass stat of the night, Fraser Massin is the second leading rusher, one rush for 24 yards. That tells you a lot.
It also had a personal foul attached to it, so it was net 9.
Yeah.
I do have to remind myself oftentimes I watch football very differently. I'm not saying I'm better at it than other people. I do not know how you could watch that game tonight and think that was anything other than a roster disparity. Yeah. That wasn't coaching. That wasn't that was you lined up against a team that has God knows how many NFL players. And I think that's kind of been the theme for because I was talking about this with Blake Topmeyer. I can't remember if it was this week or last week when he comes on our radio show. I think this team isn't even as talented as the 2021 Ole Miss team. But I find this team more enjoyable to watch because for the most part, I like how they play. I don't think they do anything particularly stupid. I think they play hard and I think they play smart. But you got to be honest with yourselves, guys. Like Trey Harris, who dominated last week, guys, do y'all remember him getting open once?
No, they bracketed him all night. They took him away. It was obviously that was a big part of their plan. They were not going to let Trey Harris beat them tonight. Well,
and Texas A&M, who also has a pretty talented defense, I assume they were trying to take him away. And it was just, you know what I mean? I just don't know how you could watch that game and think that it was because Ole Miss didn't have the right game plan.
Yeah, look, they only got Watkins and Harris 8 combined targets because of the way Georgia was able to, A, cover and B, pressure, both those things. Because, look, that's the deal. On the opposite side of the ball, you thought, okay, Ole Miss had done a really good job pressuring quarterbacks. Could they get to Georgia? We tried to play it up in some ways as, hey, Georgia hasn't necessarily statistically faced a front and blah, 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 blah. Georgia is so elite at getting the ball out, at staying efficient and on schedule on offense, on just letting kind of their athletes cook, and on protecting the quarterback. I mean, you pulled up stats in the middle of the game, and even when teams blitz, they do not get there, hits all the hot routes. I mean, they've become a machine offensively. When you throw McConkey and Bowers back in there, at least to whatever level of health, I mean, they play like
and Mims.
Country.
They had the other big one is they had Mims back tonight, their left tackle, and that was that guy's an elite left tackle. And in college football, there's just not offensive line play across the country this year is just not as good. And to me, that's kind of the other thing. It's yes, we're watching Jaden Daniels tonight be absolutely he's having an unbelievable performance. But you see right now, Georgia's offense is better than Georgia's defense.
Mm-hmm.
Catch up on a couple super chats here because I appreciate the people contributing and saying hello and showing their appreciation.
Especially on a night like tonight.
Blake Pierce, thanks for the super chat. He says, I like you guys. Embarrassing performance tonight, but 10-2, 2 out of 3 years ain't the worst. I still remember celebrating Independence Bowls. Thanks to Saturday Sending for his or her super chat. Joseph Eubanks, thanks. He says, bad night, throw it away, move on, steamroll the next 2, and let's get to 10-2. Let's see. Mac Attack says, why were we trying to run between the tackles against Georgia? And were the underthrown balls from Dart because he's banged up or feeling rushed? It's a good question.
The first part of that, you can't beat them to the outside, and you have to run a little bit, or they're just going to pin your ears back. I mean, even when it doesn't work, you cannot get away from the run game. And look, early on, they had some success until Georgia broke serve, and then you feel the pressure to have to score every time you get the ball, and you're just behind too much at that point to make it feasible.
And it's conceivable as good as
until that point.
It's also conceivable as good as Georgia is defensively. Sometimes you can hit you can gash one, and I don't know. I preferred their game plan tonight better than I preferred their game plan against Alabama. Like I thought it was unnecessary to just try to go wide like they did on Bama. I thought offensively they came out with a decent plan. I just think that the more and more that Georgia saw it, and the more that you realize like the disparity between the front, because the other big deal is Georgia came out early and started blitzing a decent amount, and then you could tell their adjustment was they were only going to rush 4, they were going to lock up man-to-man, and they were going to have 2 high safeties. And against that look, if you're going to be successful, you have to run the football. And the reason why they weren't successful tonight is because they couldn't run the football, because Georgia's got elite athletes almost everywhere on the field.
Thanks to a Marine Rebel. He says, does anyone know what is wrong with Dart? That hit was scary. Let us know when y'all do. We do. We have someone in Athens who will be sending us the video from Kiffin, and whoever is in the post game. I presume that Jackson will not be.
We have word in the stream that Lane said he was fine and could have gone back in, but there was no need. Again, whether that, I mean, I'm not questioning you in the stream who said that. I hope you're correct. I'm just saying I have not heard that with my own ears or with our on-site reporter, but that is being passed around in our stream.
Is it bad that I might still vote for Jaden Daniels for the Heisman? Is there a better player?
He's the best player in college football.
I mean, is there a
no?
better?
And this is
there's also not because their defense sucks.
Well, not only that, like there's also not been somebody like this idea that JJ McCarthy is going to have an opportunity to win the Heisman absolutely blows my mind.
I mean, if he wins it, the whole thing's a joke.
No, I think this is the perfect year for Jay.
You can tell me on Penix or maybe Nix or something, but God, I think Daniels is the best player in the. I didn't mean to disrupt the whole conversation. I'll move on. I just watched that throw and I'm like, that guy's the best player in the sport right now.
This is a pretty big swing game for me too. So I'm taking the points. I could use one more up Florida touchdown.
I will say this, and I told Chase this. Even if he's quote fine end quote, if it's me, I don't know that I'll let Jackson play against ULM Saturday. I might just.
Hey, was that right that the Egg Bowl's now Black Friday?
I wish, but no, it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that was an error.
Okay. I was like, that's news to me.
Yeah, it would have been good news for us. We would have been like, yes, but no.
Just quickly here, because I mean, it's kind of been a topic all day. There's still weeks left in the regular season. It would be possible for both technically. Ole Miss or Missouri now, though, absolutely becomes a question the rest of the way from an Access Bowl standpoint. If both teams finish 10-2, Missouri absolutely obliterated Tennessee today. 37 to something was the final, I think, in that game.
Yeah, right to 12
13 or something like that.
It was a blowout.
Ole Miss has.
I think it was 36. I think it was 36-7
teams, but they have very, very similar resumes. So if it did come down to a third SEC team only getting one and not a fourth, and the other team going to the Citrus at 10-2, it would be probably a pretty tight vote to see who is ranked higher in that realm.
And it's conceivable they both get one.
Yes, I'm saying that has clearly happened before. So in 14, for sure, when Ole Miss went to the Peach Bowl, State went to the Orange Bowl. So yes, it's happened.
Yeah, you could sell me on Marvin Harrison Jr. for sure. What I was saying, though, was about Dart. If it's me, Dart doesn't play against ULM. I play Sanders. I can beat ULM with Sanders. My focus, if I'm Lane and I'm that staff, is getting as many people back and healthy in 12 days. It's not 7 days. And if it's sloppy against ULM, so what? If I don't beat ULM by 40, instead I just beat them by 27, so what? Who cares?
And Mississippi State is currently down 51-10 to Texas A&M.
I mean, honestly, I think the biggest story for Ole Miss is not like, to me. I'm sorry, it's not what's the Access Bowl situation, whatnot, because like we'll get the rankings and then we'll be able to start sorting that out. The biggest question is like, what's the status of Jackson Dart? I suspect they could actually win both games without him, because especially it appears that State's on quit watch. But
quit warning. This is
but what? No. Well, I think last week
means that the quit watch means that the atmosphere is favorable for quitting.
No. We've had we've
you've
spotted
spotted or
tornadic
clicked.
activity.
The tornado
Yeah,
is not simply possible there in the atmosphere somewhere.
We have spotted quitting activity in and around Starkville.
Yeah, it's the
Yes.
opening to Wizard of Oz right now. There are cows flying, as in Twister, as this thing is moving forward.
Here's the thing,
Robbie
though.
Falk, of all people, typically pretty positive on the Bulldogs, said that the end of the era is near or something like that tonight on Twitter.
The era?
Very quick era.
Yeah, error.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't have done the hire anyway. Like, you have an SEC job, even if it's a low-end SEC job, like, you should not have done. Like, you let a meathead defensive coordinator manipulate a couple of boosters into making a decision that was bad for your program, and now you're going to have to live with the consequences. I mean, to me, the bigger question is, does Arnett or Pittman survive like the last 2 weeks?
Pittman will not survive. He will be fired. I don't know whether he will announce something between now and then or whether they'll relieve him of his duties. I'm inclined to think that he will finish the season, but there's a decent chance that he will finish it as having resigned.
The Houston Nut?
Yeah.
They let Auburn score 48 and then get caught watching Polar Express at halftime of their game today.
That actually was not true.
It's not true?
It is not true.
Okay.
No.
Good.
Well, but the letting Auburn score 48 was true.
The 48 was true.
I would actually argue that's the worst. Of the two things that offend me the most, that one would be
and
the
actually,
one that was
when I saw who tweeted that out first, I was like, okay, that's almost certainly not true.
Okay.
And so I sent a couple of texts out, and sure enough, because
it was SI writing a story on it is the reason
well, one of the people who tweeted it out, I consider to be one of the biggest jokes in the entire internet, which says something. I mean, he's one of the 5 accounts that I consider to be the biggest jokes on the internet.
Dan Wolken?
Nope.
How long did Caroline stay today?
She stayed at the fourth quarter.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The weather was nice.
She was not happy. She had a bad day. Had a bad week.
It does appear to be scuttlebutt over there that Rodgers is back for the Egg Bowl, but I mean, okay.
Okay. That doesn't change the fact that like the entire team has quit. I mean, I suppose you can make the argument because it's the Ole Miss game that maybe they'll play hard, but like I don't know if it matters.
They're just so void of talent. The system doesn't fit. I mean, again, it's on the screen right here. 51-10. And that's
what A&M's third
back for a touchdown. It's 51-3.
Johnson didn't play either, right?
It's A&M's third quarterback. They have
the kid who was committed to Ole Miss that Jimbo took from Lane or whatever that was.
He played at NBA. He started 4 years at NBA.
Remember?
Oh, did Reed play the whole game?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Holy cow.
They also ran like 4 plays. Like that it was unbelievable.
Wow. That's amazing.
LSU currently 45-35 over the Florida Gators. What was our line here?
I don't know what ours was. The one that matters to me is 14.5.
Okay.
Ours was 14, I think.
And you have Florida?
Yes, I have the points.
Okay. Florida's played pretty well. I mean, LSU scores 45 on every damn body, so that's
yeah, I mean, Florida has exceeded my expectations, but I mean, you're going to have to be able to score on LSU's defense. I mean, LSU's defense is not good, and they just drop a pass. I mean, that's a killer.
But to get back to the Missouri conversation, it'll just come down to rankings and not even rankings. It'll come down to how the CFP ranks them. And again, 10-2.
That's what I'm saying.
10-2 of the floor is the Citrus Bowl. I mean, there's worse fates than going to the Citrus Bowl on New Year's Day in Orlando. There's worse. The story for me tonight for Ole Miss is very simple. If they beat ULM, which I fully expect, and they beat Mississippi State, which I fully expect, they'll look up at the end of the season and go, okay, we know who the gap is between. It's us and these 2 preeminent programs that I think are still the 2 best programs in the country. And we can look at the film and see what the gap is. And you have to address it in recruiting. That's the only way. You've got to recruit, and they're in the process of this. You've got to recruit elite defensive linemen.
Yeah.
You've got to recruit faster linebackers. You've got to recruit lockdown corners, and you've got to recruit guys on the back end who are fast and have length.
And as much depth as possible in the offensive line.
Yes, that's how you win. That's the only way. That's how you get to that level.
Jalen Henderson was the A&M quarterback today.
I was gonna say I didn't think it was Reed.
Now, 11 of 19 for 150 through the air, a couple scores, and then on the ground 12 for 60 and a couple scores there also. So.
Yeah, I didn't think it was Reed because he was left-handed. I was like, I'm pretty sure Reed's right-handed.
Mike Wright, 5 of 9 for 68 yards for the Bulldogs, and they put in Chris Parson, 4 of 10 for 31 yards.
I saw he was trying to do I think he was trying to start Parson. Like he was trying to do all right, we're turning to the future, that move that a dead man walking tries to do. And it's like, oh yeah, this kid's not the answer either. It was a bad hire. Like they made a mistake. Like if they fire him after a year, I tip my cap to them. There's a lot of people that won't just cut bait when they should. And it's very obvious that it's a bad hire. That guy's maybe eventually he learns how to be a head coach, but that guy would not have any other job in the SEC other than the one that he has.
No question. And frankly, the same applies to Pittman. He's going to lose his job.
Correct.
And then the one that there was rumblings today, I don't buy them, but boy, they popped up, was Clark Lee.
Really?
Yeah.
I think they oversold this team. They I don't know whether or not they believed it. I think they thought they were going to be like hunting for a bowl. Like maybe it's 5-7 but I think they thought they were going to be in it for a bowl. And Neal saw them with his own eyes. That's one of the slowest football teams I've ever seen in my life.
They thought they were getting at least 3 in the non-con. They had a chance against Wake without Hartman. And then in their minds, it was, hey, maybe Carolina, maybe whomever. And, that thing.
Lane says we have to recruit at a higher level. Yep.
We have to coach better.
Fine. That's Lane.
That's not a playoff caliber team we put out there tonight.
No, it's not. No, they've lost 2 games to playoff caliber teams, and they're not on that level yet. They're on the level below that, which is a higher level than basically everybody else in the league. Ole Miss is on the level right now with Tennessee, Missouri, and to some degree LSU. That's their category. That's the category. They're not with Georgia. They're not with Alabama. We've seen that. And to get there, there's only one way. You can't scheme them. You don't motivate them. You recruit. It's players. Kirby Smart's credit, he says it all the time. When people try to act like he's a better coach than everybody else, he's like, man, this is about players. That's why he made fun of Mullen. He didn't like recruiting.
It's also you heard it on the broadcast when, by the way, my new favorite thing that Herb Street's doing, he has now officially hit middle-aged rich guy where he brings his dog everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a classic, like Big Jeff, everything. Like we couldn't take a Christmas card picture unless Rebel was in it. Like it's just a classic move. One of my favorite things was last year when we did our delayed honeymoon, we went to the Louvre and you see all these amazing artworks that were commissioned by like these rich people in Renaissance Italy. And really all they were these like giant paintings and they just wanted to get their dogs in them. And I'm like, it's amazing. Like that's the 1500s. And that's the same thing. Like rich guys hit like a certain point where it's just like, I just want to take my dog everywhere.
It's a pretty dog.
It was
beautiful dog.
Yeah.
It's a good looking dog.
But back to the actual point, like the only like I agree with everything that's said. I guess the question that I have is like, what's realistic? Because everything, Neal, that you just mentioned, long, fast, super athletic cover guys, elite defensive linemen, linebackers with speed, like that's what everybody's going after. And
that's no doubt. So it's about price tags and your ability to evaluate, to identify, to get ahead in recruiting so that then you can compete in the price tag. It's complicated. There's a lot there. And Golding, to his credit, since he's gotten here, has done a lot of that. I mean, their recruiting on the defensive end has stepped up dramatically since Pete Golden got here. Kelvin Bolden,
and it seems like they are in there. It seems like they're in with a different caliber of kid.
They are 100%. It was the reason tonight was the reason. I mean, I'm not. Look, I've got the column ready that eats the crow that says I was wrong. It's already been, the shell of it is written. But it's why tonight was like, this is what, when I watched them in August, and people said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, they could go 7-5. And people, but why do you say that? I'm like, because I look at the defense. They don't have great linemen. Their linebackers are kind of slow. I don't think they have lockdown corners. They have good corners. I mean, Walton's a good corner, but he's not elite.
Yeah, sure.
I've never watched DeAndre Prince and thought he was an elite lockdown corner. And then on the back end, they're kind of small. There's not a lot of length there. So it's kind of like watching a basketball team that doesn't have a lot of length on the perimeter. Man, it's just going to be really hard to close out on elite teams that move the basketball. It's that same thing with this. It was just, I watched that and went, I don't know how they beat the really good teams. And the answer was, well, they outscored one of them. Then they outcoached one of them.
Yeah.
And then the other two, the ones that are the best ones in the country, they just didn't have enough.
Yeah.
And tonight, and I think Georgia's better than Alabama. Tonight we just saw, like, you saw the best team in the country
play really damn well.
Play their A game. And there it is. There's the barometer. I mean, it's painful, but it's a dose of reality. I mean, okay.
I would define it, Georgia's best is better than Alabama's best.
Yes.
But I have felt like, I think there's no question, like significantly better. Where I give Alabama credit, ever since they've decided to go with Milroe, I feel like they have been a more consistent football team. Like week to week, I think Alabama's now 6-1 in SEC play against the number. And the only game they didn't cover was that weird Arkansas game where, remember, they were they were up like 24-6 or something like that, and you thought they were going to steamroll them, and then a couple of mistakes here and there. But for the most part, I feel like they have showed up every week in SEC play. You can't necessarily say the same for Georgia, but when Georgia does show up, I don't even think Michigan could have done anything about Georgia today.
I wrote that in my column. I don't think there's a single team in the country that wins that game tonight.
Direct quote, by the way, from Kiffin, quote, he was able to return after getting checked out about Dart, and then just said there's no reason to, so they didn't.
Okay.
So concussion evaluation.
Yes, he appeared to pass a concussion evaluation.
My experience is if it had been a collarbone, he would have been in a sling.
Correct.
Definitely no shoulder pads on.
Oh,
if you remember,
yeah, they would have definitely taken his pads off.
When my brother broke his collarbone, he was in a sling. Luke Haas, the Arkansas tight end that broke his collarbone against Texas A&M this year, when he came back to the sideline, he was in a sling. I don't think once you've broken it, I think they have to put it in a sling.
No, I think the other thing that when I think about this team, there's a little bit of, Neal, like when we used to cover Andy, and Andy was both like his, he would basically give like his detractors the ammo that they needed, and he'd give his defenders the ammo that he needed. And it's usually because he typically maximized a roster, but there was always in the end, if it became a player's game, who had more talent, they were always going to fall short, but they would maximize it. Like, part of the reason, like, why I started the show saying, like, I've enjoyed watching this team more than I've enjoyed watching the 21 team is because, like, I think they have gotten every ounce out of the amount of talent that they have. Like, their 2 losses, I think they could play those games 10 times and they lose, because I just think it was straight up, they played 2 teams that were better. But I mean, they basically won coin flips by being mature, well coached, and calm. And like I've to a certain degree, like, I think that they have maximized what they have. Now, granted, they still got 2 games left, but I suspect they're going to win those 2 games. And I just keep coming back to it, like, because I agree with Neal. Like, when you like really like forget the jerseys and whatnot, and you just watch like the players that are on the field, it's remarkable that this team's going to go 10-2 because I still don't really know how I define it.
It's an excellent coaching job. It's like you said, it's a mature team. It's an older team. It's a team that doesn't really get rattled. Even tonight, I didn't think they really got rattled. They just got beat. I get, like, for fans, that's a difficult thing to accept. I think the overwhelming majority of the people in our stream completely accept it. But there's some that they're angry on the spur of the moment. But that team was beating anybody tonight. They would have beaten Michigan tonight. They would have beaten Ohio State tonight. They would have beaten Florida State tonight. Texas.
They would have beaten Alabama tonight. Yeah.
They'd have whipped Alabama. I mean, they would have. They'd have whipped everybody. That was their best game. They were super up for it. Kirby did the whole.
No,
deal.
that's actually another thing I was thinking of. Like, isn't it? I don't know. It was just striking to me that it's like, wow. Like when they broke into the pregame, it's like, wow, this is a big game for Georgia, the Ole Miss game.
Oh, everything they did. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it looked like that annual thing they do where they just sort of put their foot on you. They did it to Tennessee last year. Did it?
And
even though that was more make believe.
Like I said, it's unfortunate that you have, and like that's the other thing that's going to kind of suck. And I know the reason why fans are bringing up Missouri is because it was in consecutive weeks. Like Missouri didn't get that effort from Georgia.
No, and Brock Bowers wasn't on the field.
Correct, and Mims wasn't on the field.
Yeah, I mean, they were healthy. This is the healthiest they've been in a while. I mean,
I'm getting the irrational 1% Twitter brigade right now too. Like it's like, calm down, guys. Like this is my favorite. It gets so old being embarrassed on a national stage time after time. When will the program ever show up in a program-defining game?
Last week,
LSU.
LSU. I mean,
had a lead on Bama in the third quarter. I mean I don't know.
Hey, they had a lead on Georgia.
They did
twice.
No, they weren't tight tonight.
No, once.
I mean,
they only had once because they punted. Yeah. They were tied. They were tied
after 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching. We got Texas and TCU.
We're praying for a miracle from our Horned Frogs right now.
No, I just had a very catastrophic touchdown. LSU was trying to bleed clock, and I thought maybe they'd settle for 3. Yeah.
And that offense is elite now.
They scored and they really weren't trying to score. But all 60 minutes, gentlemen, all 60 minutes. There's still 2 minutes left with a couple of timeouts, Billy.
And against that defense, you got a shot.
Just saying. You just got to keep throwing.
Give me some more tweets. Who else is upset? You got some more?
I mean, that was the bad one. I mean, I've got some. Basically, you can't get embarrassed like that stuff. It's kind of whatever. I mean, okay.
You joined the list.
What is LSU ranked right now?
They're like 17th.
Are they losing again?
No, they're blowing out Florida.
Our buddy Dan Wolken, pretty good chance Ole Miss finishes 10-2 without a win against a team that finishes in the top 25.
No, they're not. LSU's going to finish top 25.
Dan's been waiting on that.
Tulane's going to finish top 25.
Dan's been waiting.
Well, he's wrong.
But he's been waiting.
But that's Dan being emotional.
That's Dan in his Memphis time, and he doesn't like Ole Miss and all the NCAA stuff.
He doesn't like us. He doesn't like us.
That's a good point. Thanks for the podcast numbers back in the day.
Yeah, appreciate you, Danny.
Hey, Jeffrey, speaking of that, Tulane is playing with its food every week. They've not played well in over a month. Can Memphis beat SMU Saturday? Because that's Tulane's biggest contender for an Access Bowl.
My suspicion is no.
Okay.
Now, SMU also has been playing with their food a little bit, not to the degree that Tulane has. Like,
but
Tulane's only scored
36-31.
Yeah, but like Tulane's been playing with their food, like only putting up like 24 points on Tulsa, putting up 13 points on ECU. Like, it's a different level of playing with their food. I mean, can Memphis do it? Sure, because I still don't think Lashley's like a great coach, but SMU has better players, and SMU will hurt them up front. But, you know, Memphis has been pretty good at home, and it's the AAC. It's not like anyone's infallible in that league.
I mean, not to, but we have to talk about something far more important. What is Oregon doing with its uniforms tonight?
It's their thing, Neal. What do they do?
Yeah, but this is like a black helmet, a neon yellow top, black pants, neon yellow.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2007 Neal McCready has entered the chat.
Oh, good play.
But I mean, that's even by their standards, that's a little garish, isn't it?
We're watching future New York Giants quarterback Caleb Williams.
I'm really worried that when we had that 24-point comeback or whatever it was against Arizona, I'm very worried that comeback's going to cost us the number 1 pick.
Oh.
We're even with them. And we're going with Tommy DeVito and Matt Barkley the rest of the year. So that's a commitment to losing that you really love to see as a fan.
Abbott Goldies, thanks for the super chat. Says Kirk's dog wish he looked as good as us. Shout out to Oxy Fresh Carpet Cleaning.
Abbott's first super chat on our stream. Appreciate you showing up there.
Absolutely.
Hey, the Bucks.
I'm going to call Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams isn't going to play the rest of this game. Caleb Williams might be done at halftime.
Taking some hits.
Not only that, apparently USC's got 3 or 4 linemen out.
Did you take Oregon to cover the whatever the hell this is? Is it 14?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, your brother was adamant that we needed to take San Jose State, while I was adamant that line, or not San Jose State. Your brother was adamant we needed to take Fresno State against San Jose State. And the fact that Fresno State was an underdog absolutely terrified me. And I was screaming I thought this was a day where the teams that are actually good really displayed themselves, and the teams that are not also displayed themselves. And so now Caleb Williams did just throw an unbelievable pass, but more importantly, boys, we got the ball at the 35 with the Gators. Come on.
Speaking of, I mean, I get a ton wrong, but I felt like mortgage payment on Alabama all week, and they demolished Kentucky today.
If McKinstry doesn't muff the punt, it's a 60-point game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I maxed whatever my limit was. That was what was on Alabama today and Michigan.
Alabama can absolutely win the national title if Georgia doesn't play well.
Yeah, and I think Alabama, that was the thing.
The problem for Bama is they're only going to get the one shot. They've got to beat them in the SEC title game.
Yeah.
In the past, they would have that game to get each other out.
If Bama wins a crazy game, is there a world where both them get in?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
did I didn't. Maybe this is something I should have known, but didn't. Do y'all realize they haven't lost that game since 2008, the SEC championship game?
Who? Bama?
Weirdly, Yeah. I think Alabama's got a better shot of beating Georgia and Atlanta than they do in a title game or a playoff game.
They haven't lost in Atlanta since 2008?
No. It was one of those things where it's I guess I knew that, but it took me by surprise when I was
so Tebow beat them the year that Ole Miss won that game.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next year they had the rematch and Tebow was crying.
Georgia's now won 37 regular season games in a row. Think about that.
I mean, they haven't lost at home since 2018.
It's 3.5 years of regular season going undefeated.
What's going on with UNC Duke? They're telling us to turn the game.
6-1-2. Have a little respect for some people here that are trying to get a backdoor covered. Chat. Duke is up.
Appreciated even ESPN making fun of the interim Michigan guy for acting like Harbaugh kicked the bucket at some point this morning.
No, it truly is hilarious to me that we acted like somebody who's been suspended twice in the same season died, and I just had this thought of imagine if I would have done a get well soon Ja Morant for getting his second suspension. Imagine how insane that would be.
We got
and
the F-bomb, the multiple cuss words, and the tears, and the screaming, and acting like he died in 19 seconds.
And not only that, I presume if you're an offensive coordinator at an elite job, you have head coach aspirations. It's I'm not sure you want your first like hello world moment to just be F-bomb, S-bomb right there on national TV.
You didn't give
Also,
the
though,
good look to like whoever the hell, like Rutgers or somebody.
correct. Also, though, shout out to Jenny Taft, who was like, okay, thanks, coach. It was awesome.
So how big of a deal is it for Ole Miss to be if I'm assuming Jaden Williams will be okay. But if he's not, and Pettis is out for the year, which is the very hot rumor, does it get a little bit worrisome up front just to get through the state game?
Sure. A little bit. Because you need everybody to stay healthy because, frankly, you need Caleb to play center.
Yeah.
Because you just get too off schedule with bad snaps.
After watching that today, they'll have to put somebody else in there. They can't do that. They've got to play Caleb at center.
And look, it's going to be loud down there. It's cowbells, all that stuff. Like, you're going to have to be able to focus in much the same way as tonight, even though apparently it was really, really loud. People who were at a lot of college football games were telling me that were there, hey, this is different.
Georgia?
This feels.
Yeah.
No, they'll do that.
Stuff was going off on all the watches.
They get the wine and cheese crowd label, but when they decide to get up for a game, that place gets really loud. It's a lot like Alabama, where when Alabama thinks and determines that it's a big game, that place is super loud.
See,
Drake May just threw an absolute dime.
So do they score? Are they about to win?
They are up 33-29 with a minute 55. Duke has all 3 timeouts.
Okay, so they're going to get a possession.
And I can't imagine
playing, correct?
I believe he is. I just turned it on because Chase told us to.
I need 5 now. Tigers.
I needed. Listen, Napier, you're down 3 scores. Just get the field goal. It's the hardest thing to get. Just get this field goal.
What do we think of Franklin going for 2 down 9 today? I mean, am I taking crazy pills? You got to have it once either way. What difference does it make?
No, Drew, I wasn't saying that Pettis would have made a difference tonight. I'm talking about the offensive line in Starkville.
I mean, am I missing something, Jeffrey? Like, go ahead and try for 2 now. What difference does it make?
Okay. So the card says go for it, but I'm convinced we've jumped the shark on the what does the book say? What does the book say? Like, I don't mind it if you're down 14 and you go for 2, because that means you'll have a PAT to win the game if you get it. If not, you need the 2 later. I just think when you're down 15, if you don't get it, you've now made it a 2-score game. You made a 1-score game a 2-score game.
What's the difference in being down 2 with 30 seconds left? Like, you're either way, you got to get 1 2-point conversion. And I'm not like yelling. I'm just like hyped up.
I mean, the argument is the fastest way to get 1 play. So if you don't go for 2 first, the best you can do is tie and go to overtime, and you still have work left to do. If you get the 2, you will then have the opportunity to go for 2 in regulation and win the game. That's the argument.
Or just kick the extra point, which is what the easiest thing would be anyway.
Correct.
Overtime.
Correct. So the argument is when you're down 2 scores, you've been outplayed, and so you're just if the goal is just to win the game. Like that's the fastest way to do it. Yeah, why did we spike it there? We're wasting it down.
You got to have 2 either way. Like because the people go, well, you're down 2 possessions after you don't get it. Well, when you don't get it later, you've just lost the game. So what difference does it make? I mean, maybe I'm obtuse here. I just don't like.
I think we've jumped the shark. I think we're going for it too much. I think we're going for 2 too much. But I think what it's become is these coaches are so freaking. The real problem is these coaches aren't particularly mathematicians, and so they get so sick of being called dumb that they have somebody with a book that goes, "Go for it, go for it." So they're just playing off a spreadsheet, and so. The biggest reason, though, I think that they do it is to keep people from criticizing them. Like, hey, the book said go for it. What do you want me to do? It's I took Emeka Okafor. What do you want to do? They're good players.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm just not saying it's wrong because I think it's exactly the same. I don't think it makes any difference. Literally, I don't think it had any impact on the game whatsoever.
No, but I mean, the argument would be like that is the mathematical argument.
I mean, your point is you stay in the game as long as you can stay in the game.
Correct.
Yeah, I get it.
And yes, I understand from numbers people that that's not correct. I also think that football's more than just a freaking spreadsheet game.
Well, I mean, your ability to actually get them and how the game is moving and all that kind of stuff.
Target.
You simply go by the book on every fourth down. You're missing a lot of stuff there because like game flow is much more important than simply what that book says.
Also, sometimes the book, like, it's not accounting for like, hey, we haven't blocked them inside in 5 plays.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I thinking we're going to do it on the 6th? Like, God, that was great. Graham Mertz is going to haunt me forever.
Yeah, he was wide open for your cover.
God. Now, I will tell you, Napier will be legitimate hero status if he kicks this field goal.
Oh, the message you send to your team.
Kick the field goal.
Kick it. Kick it. Kick it. Kick it. Kick it. It's a 3-score game. It's a 3-score game.
He's going for it. It's 32 seconds left.
It's a 3-score game. You're going to have to get a field goal at some point.
Come on.
Might as well get it now, huh? Kind of like a 2-point conversion.
What do you think Dion would do?
Cover.
Oh yeah. Oh, that gives you confidence when Mertz checks the play with the line.
Oh God. They actually
all out
easily could have won that game today.
Yeah.
God dog it.
And what's going on in Duke UNC? Is Duke driving?
Duke has the ball first and 5 at the North Carolina, and they just broke a long one. Can't believe that UNC defense wasn't going to lock them down.
Oh, 2 things today. One, did Northwestern end up routing Wisconsin today?
Oh yeah. So Wisconsin was up 3-0. I believe they then got scored.
Couldn't beat the Wildcats today.
Their offense is abysmal right now.
And then what the hell happened in Orlando today?
So
credit to Ben Mintz. If you were watching the what'd you call it, the podcast Palooza?
Yeah.
If you were watching that, he said his lock of the week in college was UCF plus the 3 against Oklahoma State. He got that one right.
45 to what?
3, I think.
Okay.
So it was a couple of things. Number one, like they came out, like Oklahoma State looked like they played their Super Bowl last week and like had nothing, no gas, and then UCF like just immediately punched them in the mouth. Plumlee threw the ball great, and then a like just torrential downpour came down, and at that point, Oklahoma State was so far behind, like there was nothing they could do, and it's just kind of you'll see that kind of in the Big 12 where it's like, the super talented teams, like there's a reason why everyone kind of thinks Texas is going to still find their way to 11-1 or 12-1. It's because there's just not that many rosters that are that much better than the others. And I don't know. I think UCF also kind of had a situation like Ole Miss where they got banged up early and they started getting guys healthier. Like that was the other thing that was very obvious watching that game. It's like UCF had all the speed.
They were wearing powder blue. Was it the cosmonaut thing or whatever?
It's the space U uniform.
Okay, gotcha.
What a weird year for Oklahoma State, as someone points out in the thread. They lose to South Alabama
and beat Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, listen. It's you don't just go into the American in the Sun Belt and not and come away unscathed. Like you got to understand that's a different brand of football.
Just looking to see some other scores. I think I can check out of the Ole Miss Georgia stat broadcast at this point. Don't you think?
Yes. Duke facing 3rd and 7 from the North Carolina 30-yard line, but they need a touchdown, down 4. 50 seconds
man, oh boy, this is not what you want. Riley Leonard. I like Riley, but they don't exactly have receivers that get separation.
Ole Miss gets
And he's
UL
not.
Monroe on Saturday. UL Monroe fell to 2-8 overall, 0-7 in the Sun Belt today with a 31-point home loss to John Summerall and the Troy Trojans. We mentioned South Alabama; they improved to 5-5 today, 3-3 in the Sun Belt. They beat Arkansas State 21-14.
Is there a chance JMU wins its appeal and ends up with the Access Bowl berth?
I don't know. They're 10-0 after beating UConn 44-6 today.
Can someone explain to me? I thought they already appealed this and were denied.
The other day where they said that
I think there's basically said pretty please.
Yeah. Because the is it whoever is over the college football playoff committee now? I don't know who it is anymore. Said that had they obviously been eligible, they would have been ranked in a nice spot.
So they're apparently going to go to a bowl, provided that, like, because they're trying to not fill in bowl games with 5 and 7 teams anymore. So
Right.
they're probably going to a bowl game. But I don't. What is so? Can someone help me out? Is the logic behind it when you move up from FCS to FBS, because FCS you have fewer scholarships, they stock you with more scholarships than you would normally have so that you can get caught up? Is that the reason why? I think that's my understanding of why you're technically ineligible for 2 years.
By the way, Mississippi State tonight in College Station rolled up 237 yards of total offense, including 104 through the air, 133 through the ground. They had 12 penalties for 100 yards, committed 4 turnovers, did not force one. Texas A&M had 396 yards of total offense, including 246 on the ground.
Yeah, but Neal, that doesn't tell the stat. Were they tough?
Not enough.
Okay, did Duke or Kentucky screw up blue and white uniforms more this week?
Kentucky, that was abysmal. It was horrible today.
The gray.
I don't know. These black.
And even the helmet.
It's like, oh my God, touchdown.
Ruin it.
Yeah, you're spoiling it for us.
Yeah, well, I had to sit there and watch LSU or whatever. I had to watch LSU cover.
4th and 7. Oh God, they got right behind him.
That was, hey, the Chiz rag strikes again.
Oh my God. No, Southern Miss has no shot next week. No.
Well,
come
hold
up.
Neal,
stop. Listen. If you have a pulse right now, you have a shot, and they have a pulse. They beat Louisiana Lafayette.
They can't score.
Louisiana Lafayette would have a shot against Mississippi State. So therefore, by the transitive property,
which really works.
If you're a State fan, you should hope that it gets the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen to you if you're a State fan is that he gets them up somehow, some way for that Egg Bowl.
Look, I would laugh
my ass
Saturday.
Like, that's the worst thing that can happen to you.
I mean, you wouldn't put a lot of money on State Saturday.
To win outright?
Yes, to win outright.
Dude, Southern has been awful.
They weren't.
Look, I love those guys. Like, I'm friends with multiple coaches over the
last 2 weeks.
Hey, their last 2 weeks, yeah, they've
not the last.
I don't know if there was some addition. I don't know if there was some addition by subtraction, but
So here's the thing: one team's guaranteed to have a pulse Saturday.
Oh, they'll be ready.
Well, that's more than I can promise you on the other.
Get up early. Just let it.
Whatever. I mean,
hang around.
One team will have a pulse. I can't promise you the other will.
Because Arnett's going to have a hard time going, hey, guys, look, Southern Miss coming in. Let's go get one Saturday.
Zach,
the other problem,
he just wants his $4.5 million at this point.
You know the other problem that Arnett has? He looks very stupid. Like when they pan to him on the sideline, he always just has this look that's like, I have no idea what's going on. Yeah. And whether or not that's true, like, it's just he looks like he has no answers. And then also, like, when he takes his headset off, he like takes it and wears it like in a way that's like, I've never worn a headset in my life, and it just makes him look even dumber. It's like, oh, this is like a football guy that like has never even like signed into a computer in his life.
SC just
listen. If since your brother gave me this dead dog loser of Fresno State that I wanted nothing to do with, I need Oregon to just absolutely house them.
He bobbled the ball.
He did bobble it, but then he had it, and then they hit him after he had it.
Yeah. And didn't he call fair catch? It doesn't matter if you it's the ball has come free.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can't do that. Now
you get the opportunity to make the catch.
He fell down like he got shot, but otherwise, sure.
No, now listen. I mean, that was a vicious. That guy came in full speed. Chase, what are you talking about?
That's how you hurt somebody. I will say, when Dart got hit, I thought that was bad.
Yeah, I did too.
Jackson's. Look, I'm a big Jackson Dart fan.
But that was the moment to get out of bounds.
But that was not his best moment. That will be a learning lesson. This is why we've told you to get down. You weren't coming back. Was it 35-14 at that point? You weren't winning the game. Live to fight another day.
I think he was knocked out.
I thought he was knocked out too.
Even when they brought him up, it took him a minute to open his eyes.
He's tough as nails, though. I'll give him that. I mean, that cat, he's fearless. Credit to him. He still wouldn't. If it were me, he wouldn't take a snap next week against 2-8.
He knows one speed, and he
just doesn't play against 2-8 ULM. If it's me, I let Spencer Sanders have his day.
I think Lane. It's not like he's playing for awards right now. You know what I mean? His season is what it is. I would be shocked if he plays next week.
Someone says, was that not targeting? At first, I thought it was. But when I watched the replay, I really didn't think it was.
The problem was Jackson tried to split two defenders. And also, when you're running, you're not defenseless. They have to literally lead with the crown of their helmet. They basically have to spear you. But you're not defenseless. You don't get the same protection that you do elsewhere. I don't know. I was just so freaking glad tonight did not come down. You don't understand. When I saw that first holding flag come out, and especially when that ref, it got stuck in his pants, and he threw the flag after Judkins had crossed the end zone, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be one of those nights, isn't it?
It was definitely the second flag before it was legal substitution. You went, oh God, oh God, oh God, because I was worried the message board was going to just take off and go up into flames in the sky.
Well, no, I knew the illegal substitution was not a hold because the guy just dropped it. It was the back judge, and he just dropped it right there. When it's a hold, they try to throw it close to, where the spot would be.
I actually thought the game was fairly well officiated after last weekend's debacle. I thought this one was pretty good.
I mean, I know this. When they at least at the end, when that game got out of hand, they were like, unless you freaking spear somebody when the ball's in the air, we're just letting you play. We're not going to waste the time. We're not going to waste the time to officiate whether or not that was pass interference because both sides, DB wise, they got away with murder in the late third and fourth quarter. But I didn't care. It's the game's over.
Who does Colorado have the last 2 weeks?
They still have Utah and.
Have they played Washington State? I think they have.
Maybe Washington State.
And Washington State's also on quit watch. Because Washington State lost to Stanford last week. And they had a spirited comeback against Cal, but they still lost to Cal today.
How's Cam Ward been playing?
He's fine. I mean, everyone's figured out what they do. So everyone just rushes wide. They only rush 3. Everyone drops 8. And they don't have enough playmakers that can just beat coverage. And so he winds up just checking it down all the time.
Washington line was 3.
Yes. Isn't that right?
Wait, the Washington. No. The Washington
Utes.
Oh.
No, that was 8. No, I don't know what ours ours might have been 10 or 10.5.
Oh, was that high? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It got down to 8.5. But I most people I know had it somewhere between 9.5 and 10.5.
Oh, Carolina gets a kick.
But that
Mike Elko is icing the kicker.
Is he actually going to get out? All right, no, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun.
Yep.
We know we're going to have some jobs open. Give me the 3 most likely guys for Arkansas and the 3 most likely guys for State.
Well, the state message board apparently today was floating around wondering if they could get Cliff Kingsbury.
What about Petrino?
Would they do it?
I'd rather have Petrino than Kingsbury.
I mean, Kingsbury.
Kingsbury wouldn't even.
If he does it, he's just taking a huge paycheck, and they'd have to really pay him like $8-9 million a year.
Yeah, but we're going overtime.
What do you have in this?
Nothing. I enjoy spoiling it for y'all because it's thrilling to break news.
Oh, he curved it in. It's
a
nice little draw there.
Tight little draw.
It was.
I'm so mad at your brother. I'm so mad at your brother.
So
God,
three most likely guys for Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're them, you've got to call Willie Fritz.
Yep, and I think that actually makes sense.
He makes a lot of sense.
You have to call John Sumrall and at least make him tell you no.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Third coach.
Tom Herman.
Okay, sure. Tom Herman makes some sense. I mean, why not?
Kendall Briles.
No, you got to hire a head coach. They just did the coordinator thing with experience.
How much money do they have?
Yeah,
that I don't know. I mean,
they can't go pay $9 million.
All right, so what can they pay? 6? Can they pay 6?
Maybe.
What about Jamie Chadwell?
Yeah.
JMS.
I think it's State.
So still a good team.
I think it's State.
Hold on one second. JMS 77, thanks for the super chat. He says, still a good team. Interested to see if coach can keep them motivated for 2 more games. First super chat. Really appreciate it.
He doesn't have to Saturday.
He doesn't have to.
He will not use any emotional capital on Saturday.
I mean, if you require motivation to beat ULM, something went terribly wrong. And then I think they'll be motivated to play Mississippi State after what happened last year.
I'm not worried about this team not showing up. They've showed up every week.
I don't think Will Muschamp would take the job. His name's mentioned. I think Will will hang where he is.
Okay, so if indeed it's true that State's going to have to do it another way, why would you not go get somebody like Chadwell or Fritz, someone that runs a different style of offense?
Yeah.
And I guess the problem is the problem is if you do that, you accept, we're not going to win an SEC championship, which you're not anyway, but still.
Chadwell takes that, right?
I don't know. I mean,
3 bones.
I do think
he's going to win like 10 games a year every year.
I mean, I don't think you have to right now if you're Chadwell. I mean, he's going to dominate that league. They're now in CUSA, and it's a job where they spend money and nobody else does. Like you're gonna win that league a lot, and I don't know if that's the one that I'd jump at. I mean, here's the other question: do you call Dan and say, "Let's get back together"?
I mean, I would.
He's the best in my mind. Considering how hard the job is to do, and it got harder. Like,
he fell down. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's okay. They get it right back.
Okay.
All right. They wanted to know. Let's see.
Duke was trying a double reverse pass there.
Yeah.
Okay. It didn't work. I know we're all shocked.
Brian Rippey, welcome into the show. Appreciate you being here.
How are y'all?
We're good. Real quick, thanks to Alex Martin very much for the super chat. That's very kind of you. Says thanks. Thank you guys for all you do. Go Rebs. Appreciate
Alex. Been with us for a long time. Good to hear from you, bud.
Any hot takes from Georgia over Ole Miss tonight, Brian?
Not really. I mean, I don't know. Ole Miss, that game seemingly went sideways for them pretty quickly, losing, the second tackle, and then they couldn't really stop them defensively. So, no, not a whole lot.
All right, we'll throw this at you, Brian. Mississippi State, 3 candidates for that job.
Oh man. I'm not even sure I could name one. And I'll throw it back to you. Where do y'all think they go with that? I mean, who do they
have to
hire?
Coach.
I think they have to hire a head coach. Look, like Jeffrey was just saying, Chadwell makes a lot of sense. He won at Coastal Carolina. He's winning at Liberty.
He's done a really good job developing quarterbacks that aren't necessarily highly rated.
Now, neither of those jobs play SEC schedules. And the problem in the SEC, and Ole Miss saw it tonight, and Ole Miss is going to win 10 games. If you don't have elite talent, you're going to have multiple games a season where you have no chance. And State has no money. That's what everyone tells me anyway.
Iowa has allowed one offensive touchdown in the last 4 games, even with the offensive crap that they put out there themselves.
Scored 22 points today, man. Shut up. They scored 22 points.
Still went under.
Y'all do realize that there's no other coach in the Big Ten West that would have met the 25 points per game standard that Brian Ferentz had to meet.
No
Correct.
kidding.
I will say
they all have to play the same way because
Illinois, Indiana was very entertaining today.
You watched Illinois, Indiana?
Quite a bit.
What time was that damn game on?
It was in the
it was the early slate.
It was the early window.
Oh, is Elko going to hang in Durham, or is he leaving? What's he going to
do? Where's he going to go?
I don't know. I'm just asking. He can get out and go somewhere.
I just
very clearly likes the grocery stores in Durham.
He has gained weight in the season, hasn't he?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, Michigan State maybe, but I think the name I'm watching at Michigan State is, especially after they got beat like they did today. Does Stoops say I've done all I can here?
And leave Kentucky?
Yeah, reset. Take a dump truck full of cash. Well, Mel Tucker was making $10.5.
The rumor is that Iowa is going to make a change at the end of the season.
And that's the other one where obviously he would make a lot of sense.
He makes a ton of sense there.
I kind of followed Kentucky a little bit after that game today, and I mean, I get they lost to Alabama in this blowout, but they're sort of resigned to they just are what they are, and they're still relatively okay with that.
No, that's the problem.
That's the job Summerall can have. That's the reason why I think that he might be reluctant to jump at Mississippi State, because he would rather have the Kentucky job, and I think he would be the guy there.
The problem that Stoops has now at Kentucky is he actually has maximized and reached the ceiling at Kentucky. The problem is everyone's fine with that when we're paying $5-6 million, but now that you're making $9 million, everyone's going, what are we paying $9 million for? Like we're the same thing. And he's kind of a victim of his own success. So I'm curious to know if like he sits there and goes, hey, rather than deal with frustration and whatnot, do I just go reset somewhere?
Sort of related to that, interesting question. I mean, interesting comment from the stream. Considering the lack of a league and the mess they're in, would Jonathan Smith listen to State?
I think he could have better offers. If he puts his name out there, I think he could have better offers.
If you're Jonathan Smith and you can either be the head coach at Arkansas or the head coach at Mississippi State, which job do you take?
Arkansas.
Easily.
All right, they wanted us to come up with 3 names for Arkansas. If I'm Arkansas,
well, I mean,
if I'm Arkansas,
that's the first one I'm calling.
He's on the top of my list. The other guys, I'm calling Chris Kleiman at Kansas State and making him tell me no.
I like that.
I don't do the Gus Malzahn thing. No way. I don't bring Barry Odom back, even though he's done a great job at UNLV. That's too much residual. You got to completely get away from the Pittman thing. And I want a head coach, preferably a Power 5 head coach.
I mean, I think Elko makes sense there, but like I don't.
Okay,
I think they want to go.
I'm gonna give you a really insensitive take on Elko, and Brian, tell me whether tell me how horribly insensitive this is.
Oh,
can you fire one fat guy to hire another fat guy?
Well, they would have technically hold on. They would have technically fired 3 straight fat guys. So yes,
they had
because they fired Bielema to hire Pittman. So they've already fired one fat guy for another
Chad
fat
They
guy.
had Chad in the middle.
Yeah.
They had skinny Chad Morris in the middle.
How bad am I for saying that, Brian?
Oh, not bad at all. I mean, there was a skinny guy in the middle, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just keep rotating out fat guys.
Elko's not as big as Pittman.
He's bigger.
Do you think? Has he gained that much weight?
He's bigger than Pittman. Yeah.
He used to not be.
Pittman just carries the weight up top like that. He doesn't have the belly like that.
Okay.
Well, he's also older. So like you know what I mean, there's more years there. Like it's been sinking down. Like 2 pounds a year goes a lot farther when you're in your late to mid 50s than 40s. You know who else quietly fat guy, but he hides it well, and I respect his game. Josh Heupel has times where I swear to God the guy's pushing 3 bills.
Oh, Jeffrey, he's past 3 bills.
But he wears the tarp. That's so smart. Like he gets it doesn't matter if it's 1,000 degrees outside. He's like the smock. And so you can't just see his gut. It's so smart. I
He's the
respect the hell
golf
out
guy
of
who never tucks the shirt in.
Absolutely not.
Ever. It just
and
like,
he wears Adidas golf shirts because Adidas golf shirts are made for fat guy.
We have super chat from hold on, let me get to it. Can you read it?
Memphis Rebel. Hypothetically, Ole Miss goes 11-1 next year, and Kiffin gets the offer he can't refuse. Who's Ole Miss's top 3 choices? Pete Golding's on the list.
What's Auburn's record?
Shut up, Jeffrey. I mean, he would campaign. I mean,
he'd have a really good plan.
Does the fat guy thing though does that get hidden or more exacerbated by the fact that you wear orange? Because I always thought Fulmer looked like a big pumpkin, but the fact that Heupel is wearing orange all the time, does that exacerbate this fat guy?
Heupel doesn't wear. Fulmer used to wear the windbreaker. Like he would wear that.
Yeah.
That like Heupel wears more of like the BP top. Like if you've seen it, it looks like a batting practice top, and so it's not the pure Tennessee orange. Whereas Fulmer would wear the one that literally looked like a street sign. It was like, look at how fat I am. Heupel's is a little more muted.
Has Heupel gone to the black garbage bag some?
No, he also goes with the white a lot. He goes with that. No, but it's a good white. It's like it's a fat guy white. It's remember Bielema used to wear it. It's like that. It literally is like they took the tarp that you put on the mound, those white tarps that you'd put like on the baseball mound, and they just like cut a hole in for it. Like it's a poncho. And so it's not form fitting. It gives you a lot of room, and like you can't really see a ton of belly. It's genius.
How old is Lance Leipold at Kansas? He's 60.
I thought it was late 50s. If I'm him though, I don't leave. I have the greatest gig that's the greatest gig in the world.
There any color that makes you look taller? Because if you have a strong opinion on this, I might try it.
If there was, I would have already worn it.
Yeah, just vertical pinstripes, not horizontal.
And it doesn't matter. Like the only thing you can do is like wear wallabies. Something with a good solid like 1.5 inches. It's the best you can do.
Oh, you get the lifts.
Yeah.
Supposedly DeSantis is wearing the lifts right now.
Tom Cruise wears lifts.
De Niro was a big lifts guy. Like De Niro would wear like if you saw him, they looked like the boots that like Kiss would wear.
We're in a second OT with UNC and Duke.
See, this is stupid. They've played for 4 hours, and now we're going to decide this game on 2-point plays. I hate that.
Well, not yet.
Not
So
yet.
they still get a chance to run their offense.
College gets it wrong, but like I watched a high school overtime last night, and they were just going to keep playing it out from the 10 until somebody won. Now you do have to go for 2 after the second overtime after you score.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is it's like everything in the NCAA. Like we didn't care when Ole Miss and Arkansas went overtimes, but as soon as they went to 7 overtimes in the social media age, God forbid we had to change everything.
That Iowa-Rutgers game, I had a friend come over and watch the game. I was told that over-under closed at something absurd like 28.5, who I was told
20
was one of the
It crossed 28. It closed at
Oh my
27 and a
God.
half.
That has to be some kind of record, correct? Like
It
Oh,
is
no.
correct.
Has to be.
Iowa's last 4 games have each individually set a record for new record for lowest point total. Like they just every week it just keeps going down. Like I don't know what you do. Like you can't set a point total at 19 and a half.
They have one of the 5 best defenses in college football. They have the best punter in college football. And they can't score.
They play Illinois Saturday, so it'll be.
Oh, that could be a really low-scoring game.
Illinois at home and then at Nebraska to close.
On Black Friday.
Yeah. At 11 a.m.
All right, top three for Ole Miss. Do I get to do my top 3 or do I have to pick what the actual top 3 would
It's
be?
up to you. It's your world.
It's 11. It's 10:40. It feels later than this. It's 10:47 on Saturday night. You can do what you want.
Who?
What she said.
Well, Jonathan Smith. Yeah, that phrasing. I just think Jonathan Smith's like an awesome football coach. Now, I think the problem with Jonathan Smith is I would want for a developmental job, and I'm not sure Ole Miss is a development job.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Like,
that's Arkansas.
Guys,
kind of
I don't
thing.
know. I don't think SEC jobs are development jobs. That's state's problem.
But who are they getting? That's not they don't have the money to not be a developmental job.
Then you're just going to lose.
Well, okay. But
I mean, you're just going to lose. I'm
somebody who's used to NIL can't go to Starkville and go, hey, that's how I'm going to do it. They don't have the money to do it. It's not happening.
Then it's not going to happen. And you're just throwing the money away. So go spend it on basketball and baseball where you can be competitive. And forget it.
Who's somebody that maybe not this year, but who's somebody that's in either the ACC, the Big 12, or the Pac-12, rest in peace, that will be in a spot where he's kind of unhappy and maybe he's just looking for an out?
I'll give you Mississippi State's hire.
Jed Fish.
Dave Doran. Brian said Jed Fish. I don't think
Dave Doran, second stint as Ole Miss head coach. Welcome him back.
No, I was going to say for State. That's who State should hire. If State's going to be a developmental job, hire Dave Doran. He's been very consistent at North Carolina State. Had good players. They've been super competitive. They're tough. They have an identity. He was going to take the Ole Miss job. Offer him the State job.
After next season, is somebody going to hire Tommy Rees?
To do what?
Be the head coach?
Hey, let's run a bunch of let's have a long zone read fake and flip it out in the flat. It's brilliant offense. And then we'll chunk it deep. That offense works when you have Alabama talent. Like,
yes. Wes Rucker did indirectly blame officiating for Tennessee's loss today.
Oh my
love
God.
it.
Indirectly.
The guy's got
Against
got
Missouri.
a brand.
Fill me in on
brand.
that.
The lack of live ball penalties was a huge detriment in the game for the Vols today.
No, I'll tell you where the game got sideways for Tennessee. Thornton, they've had receiver problems all year, getting guys to they've got Squirrel White in the slot who's been pretty good, but they've really struggled on the outside. Thornton had started to come on as their deep threat. He makes a unbelievable one-handed catch for a touchdown, but I think he also ripped his quad in the process. And so he never played another snap. After he went out, their entire offense just stalled the entire time.
Duke converts a 4th and 1 to keep a drive going in second overtime.
Would anybody call Chip Kelly next year?
He's done a nice job. He's sort of proven me wrong because I thought his career was over and he wasn't going to be able to adapt.
I'm trying to think. I mean, the reality is it's like, you know what the answer should be? Who is going to motivate? Like, we can make all the Penny Hardaway jokes that we want. You know why Penny Hardaway's the best coach for Memphis basketball? It has nothing to do with his scheme. It has everything to do with there is literally no one else that can motivate Memphis money people to put all the money into the pot like he can. So, like, maybe that's the answer. If this is all just going to be professional sports and it's just going to be a roster acquisition thing, the simple answer is like, who motivates the money people the most?
That's why State at least makes Mullen say no if you're the AD.
I would.
You motivate him.
Yeah. No, he's got the same problem. The problem at Mississippi State that he's in today's world, if he's not going to recruit hard, they're in deep trouble. But sure, he might get him excited for a little bit.
He's done the job before, though. And everyone does like the whole retread thing doesn't work. It's kind of worked. I mean, Mac's got it working at North Carolina for the same reason we're talking. Like, why does Mac work at North Carolina? Because he convinced all the money people, like, I'm the best guy for the job, and they all pony up. I mean, think about it. How many teams do you realistically think came after Drake May this year? 15, 20?
At least, including Alabama.
Any that thought they had any chance at all. So, yeah.
And
North
they kept
Carolina has won 47-45.
I've got Kiffin post game. It's only 5 minutes. Do you want to hear it? Or do you care?
Sure.
It doesn't matter.
All right, I'm going to build a scene and play it. You guys just hang on, okay? We'll come back to you on the other side.
All right, first off, congrats to Georgia. They played extremely hard today and played physical, tackled really well on defense, and really dominated us on the other side of the ball. To have over 10+ yards per play. I don't know if I've been a part of that on defense. So not a good recipe to come in after 14-14, not play well against the #1 team in a hostile environment. So add us to the list of whatever, 43-1 in the last 44.
Mike, do you have any update on Jackson?
Yeah, he was able to return after getting checked out, and just didn't see a need at that point to put him back in.
Questions? I guess Lane with Micah Pettis not being available and then Jaden going out in the middle of the game. Obviously, you had to play the hand you're dealt, but just how difficult was that to kind of work with, and it would just result speak for itself 3 quarters later.
This is what it is. It's part of the game, but obviously not exactly the ideal defense. You want to be playing without your right tackle, and then right a few snaps into the game, lose the next tackle that you have in there playing. So guys had to move guys around a lot, and lost the center late too. So it is what it is.
Was there anything specifically on offense that Georgia was doing that you think was really kind of the catalyst for why they were so successful tonight on that side of the ball?
And you got their tackle back and tight end back, and we didn't tackle, and they got really physical backs. And I said it during the week, I think that offense is overlooked, because it's a defensive-made team, I think people think, but that's a really good offense, and that was a concern. We really hadn't played no disrespect, a really elite passer for a while, probably since LSU, and was concerned that may show up today, and if we don't do everything we need to do, and it certainly did.
Mike, I think you guys are the only team that's faced both Alabama and Georgia at this point in the season. It seems like playing a couple weeks in the SEC championship. I know it's in the immediate aftermath of this, but how would you compare those two teams after what you've seen?
Well, I think every week's different. Every game is independent. of each other. Obviously, you look at our 2 games, and they were just figuring out their quarterback situation when we played them. These guys obviously look like a lot better team today than Alabama did that day, but that don't matter. That was a couple months ago. So we got our own problems to work on, and we need to get back home and win our 9th game. These guys can battle out in the SEC championship and figure it out.
Lane, what needs to happen for Ole Miss as a program to be able to compete with a team like this with as much talent?
I mean, that's a good question. We got to recruit at a higher level, and I'm not blaming people. We got to coach better, but at some point, whatever those stats are, we've signed 1 5-star, they've signed 24 or something. Those kind of do show up at some point. So we'd have to recruit at a better level, do a better job on recruiting.
I know you mentioned that you said you guys don't talk about the college football playoff, but does it make the loss kind of tougher at all, knowing that was that second loss, and the chance to get in the playoff obviously become much tougher because of that?
No, I think you covered us. I think I'm very realistic. That was not a champion, or that was not a playoff looking team at all that we put out there today. And so last thing I'm worried about is that knock us out of the playoffs. We don't deserve to be in the playoffs or a conversation about it.
Questions?
Mike, can you speak to Georgia's offensive line? It seemed like they were really able to control the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as successful a day as you can have. Keeping the quarterback clean, very few incompletions, run for 300 yards. I think getting their tackle back helped. They got really good backs and did a really good job coaching too.
I guess similarly, what was obviously you've been able to get after teams with talented offensive lines before. Really, how much of a patch rush today? What was the difference than what you saw?
Felt the same thing you felt. We said it had. We just couldn't get any pass rush, and guys sat back there a long time, and guys got really open. That's kind of usually a recipe to have 60 plays for 600 yards. It's usually going to be a recipe of bad tackling and good protection, and getting guys open.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thanks, guys. More players in shortly.
That was Lane Kiffin. I thought Lane was really frank, and his answer, now that I get to listen to it as opposed to just hear what he said, I thought he's exactly right when he's like, yeah, we got to coach him better. That was a throwaway, like, hey, I'm not going to put all the blame on this. But he said it over and over. We have to recruit better. And then he was asked about the playoff thing, and I thought that was fascinating. His answer was very direct. No, obviously, no. That doesn't make it worse. I was there. I was on the field. I saw it. We don't have a championship team. We don't need to be in the playoff conversation. We're not a playoff team. We've got to get there by recruiting. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. I mean, hey, look, give the guy this. There's no coach speak there. That's honest.
I mean, coaching is all those things. It is recruiting.
It is. It's
part of it.
It's Kirby Smart says it's 90% recruiting, and I swear I think he's right. That's my point. We're talking about the Arkansas job, the Mississippi State job, the hypothetical Ole Miss job. Whatever the case may be, it is all about whoever can motivate people enough to raise enough NIL to buy those players. That's how you win this league. Do you agree, Brian?
I do. And as you guys know, I mean, we're working on something regarding like how the Grove Collective was founded. I've talked to a couple of people in the last week or so talking about kind of how they were proactive versus reactive for the first time in quite a while regarding getting the Grove Collective off the ground and getting started, raising money and all of that. But I think the next step is exactly what he said. I mean, what was the quote? We've signed 1 5-star. They've signed 24. It's finding a way to get more talent on your roster and using the resources you have, maybe not paying a running back $700,000. I don't know what the next step of this whole NIL thing is, but for a school like Ole Miss, maybe more smartly distributing your money and trying to get more talent and better of it, because I thought that was the ultimate reflection of what tonight was. Ole Miss needs more players that are better than that they are, particularly on the defensive side of the football, to compete against the top two programs in the conference and really in the country.
I'm on this obsessive Shohei Ohtani watch right now. I realize he's not going to the Cubs, but it has led to this interesting conversation where people say, well, what would it take to get him to come to the Cubs? Okay. And the answer is like $45 million a year, which leads to the next question. Are you better off spending that money on X, and Y if you're not the Dodgers, if you're not the Yankees? And so to bring it back to college football parlance, if you're Ole Miss and you're never going to have the top level resource that Texas has, that Georgia has, and this year you could argue that if you want to pick nits at the Ole Miss program, it would be, well, you have a lot of dead money. You have a lot of money that you spend on guys for whatever reason or reasons that they're not really contributing, and you used that money to acquire players that played linebacker or could rush off the edge, or another offensive tackle, or another wide receiver, or had you not, like the Chris Marshall thing, Zachary Franklin's a bust. Spencer Sanders hasn't played much. They spent a whole lot on Quinshon Judkins. You could argue that moving forward, to your point, you've got to figure out where to allocate the money, and you've got to be better at that. That's how you raise your level from here to here. And again, I'm not belittling Ole Miss. I think they're going 10-2, and at the floor, it's the Citrus Bowl, which is before the season. If you'd said, hey, that's behind door number 1, do you want to try door number 2? I think 99 out of 100 people would have said, no.
We'll head to Disney.
Door 1 is good. We'll go there. Jeffrey's exasperated.
No. I know. I totally agree. Brian's point is, why does the NFL? Why are we having to see running backs, at the start of have a Zoom meeting and have all their agents say, this is unfair and whatnot? Why? Because the NFL knows the difference between the best running back and replacement level running back doesn't have as big of an impact on wins and losses. I think the more interesting question, though, because I'm with Brian completely. The problem, though, is when you start going after what everybody's going after, are you better off? Like, you're not going to get as many of them. Does that mean you don't try? Like, I don't know. That seems like also a foolhardy plan, but at the same time, it's like, I used to always say, like, you can always tell what is cheap at the time based on the position of elite players that Ole Miss got. So where I give Freeze credit, he was ahead of the curve on elite wide receivers being more valuable. And whether or not that was because he had the foresight, or whether or not that was because those were, he was a star chaser and that's what he could get. Well, what have we seen in the NFL? They value, like, it took a while, but now they value getting a number 1 receiver. And like, are you now better off stockpiling the best talent of what everybody else doesn't want and trying to build a roster that way? I don't know. My personal opinion is you need to go and stockpile. Like, the one great thing about having Lane Kiffin is I think Lane at this point in his career has proven that he is schematically, offensively, he is extremely good. Is he the best? I don't know, but he's extremely good. I think you're better off stockpiling as much talent as you can get on defense and having him figure out ways to get it on offense. Because one thing that I know Lane's always going to be pretty good at is he's going to pick a pretty good quarterback, and he'll kind of figure it out. And you can kind of scheme your way on offense, whereas defense, more than anything, it's size, speed, it's measurables. It's who's got the biggest, fastest, strongest dudes. And that's not necessarily the case on offense. But, it's a fascinating debate because, like, if you sit there and you go, all right, we're going to go compete and recruit with the big boys, how many of those guys are you going to land? You're obviously going to land a couple, but land enough. Like, would you end up hurting yourself because you exerted all that effort and you wind up not getting what you could have if you would have focused elsewhere. I think that's what, like, I don't have the right answer. I think that's actually a fascinating.
It's a valid question. I mean, for sure. Because, I mean, my thought, too, on that was, are we going to see a trickle down where because of the running backs not getting paid, is college football and on down about to get better at linebacker and safety because kids are going to play defense instead of running back?
Well,
And
like,
that's
I think honestly, I think there's like a anthropological debate. Like, offensive line play in college football, it's not just college. If you offensive line play coming up in the high school ranks, like the elite level high school, like offensive line, it's not there. And like the problem is when there's a scarcity of elite players, everyone's going to go actually try to, everyone's going to be in on these one or two guys, and then you're going to wind up overpaying probably for guys that aren't that good. But I mean, it's a truly interesting like way to look at college football moving forward.
And that's kind of the next level of this, isn't it? I mean, I've talked to a couple people. I know I have a buddy that's kind of making the transition agency wise from like looking at more NFL guys to trying to start something organically from the college side of it. I mean, we've talked about this a couple of times. This is not even questioning the Grove Collective leadership or anything about that, but is the next level of this collective thing is, okay, we have all this money raised, but do you find a guy who knows how to manage it and disperse it when you don't really have a salary cap and all of that? It's like to spend your money smartly, to say, we won't pay a running back X amount of money because they're just not that valuable. And Ole Miss losing Quinshon Judkins after last season would have been, kind of blasphemous from a narrative standpoint. But is there anyone in the room from a collective standpoint at that point that just says, hey, we can't pay a running back that much money, we need to disperse it elsewhere? Is that kind of the next level of this collective thing?
Yeah. So it's the question. I mean,
But good luck, though, because right now this is a Bill Parcells system. Coach and GM, he's
right.
running things.
He's the one running things. And so it's,
hey, coach, sorry, you can't recruit that guy. We're going to decide we need to pay linebackers. We're not doing that. I'm the capologist.
but if you told me that 10 years from now, the GM at the college level is as valuable as the GM at the NFL or MLB level or the NBA level, I'm actually starting to think I might buy that.
Yeah.
Because it's too much for one person to make all those decisions. And so you have to have, I mean, like, but I was going to say, I mean, I'll address the elephant in the room. If Quinshon Judkins were to come to you in a month, realistic scenario, and say, hey, X State U offered me 1.3. If you match it, I'll stay. It's a big decision to make.
Well, and the other problem, though, like if we use, like, for instance, let's use the Major League Baseball example because we're all baseball fans. One of the is like, why are the Rays so good? Why are these small market teams so good? Well, there's an international element where like you can go and you can get high level talent cheaply. I mean, I know this, like, I don't know if it's exactly apples to apples, but the team that I watched in high school football this year that had the most talent was Macaulay out of Chattanooga, and most of their high elite level talent came from French Canada, like outside Montreal.
Oh.
Like, I don't know, like is that the like, or is that the new, like, if we all know Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Texas A&M, USC, whoever, if they're all going after this small pool and of the same elite players, like, are you better off trying to think of like another route like that's untapped? Like, are you looking into other places to, because if we want to use the Bill Parcells example, it's at the end of the day, it is a talent allocation business.
Sure.
Is that maybe your best way of allocating the most talent, like looking elsewhere? I mean, the one problem with football more so than particularly basketball or baseball is internationally football is just not there. Like, you know what I mean? Like most of it's all played here, but like you do get some of it up in Canada and there's a little bit in Europe that you're seeing a guy or two, but like, I don't know, is that wise either? Like, I wouldn't advocate and be like, I've thought of something no one else has. Like, recruiters know about international players. Like, so, but I don't know. Like, it's very fascinating to me. It's like, what's the best way to spend your resources?
But here's the thing with Ole Miss is that I don't think they have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, this is assuming they beat ULM and they beat Mississippi State. This is 2 out of 3 years under Kiffin that they've won 10 games in the regular season. So it's not about catching up. It's about how do you close the gap from really good to great, which is obviously, as we saw tonight, it's a long bridge. I mean, there's you.
But I guess so. This would be my question. I think we thought watching college football this year, I think we thought the top of the sport came down a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think any of us thought like, oh, the middle caught up. It's that we thought the top level came down. Well, guess what we're seeing right now? And maybe it's because we're now getting into whatever this was week 11, right?
Yep.
So we just got into week 11. Let's see. The best rosters coming into the year: Alabama, Georgia, Michigan. Guess who's Ohio State to a certain degree, Oregon to a lesser degree. Like, guess who's standing out right now?
Those.
And while everyone else is like, how did this team this one week and then look like that the next? Well, it's probably because everyone else has had to start getting into their depth.
What you see is the differentiating from the middle. The ones at the top of the middle look better than the ones who were slow to embrace NIL. I mean, like.
Also, there is not a number that is not okay to overpay a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
No matter what the number is, you have to have the quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's what
Jeffrey froze on us there for a second.
Because Alex, that's kind of the
Same
point.
thing.
He says, does Ole Miss have enough to outbid Georgia to compete for championships? No, but Lane has shown that they have enough to be creative in ways to try to bridge that gap as you continue on with the program. But again, it's Georgia's up here. I mean, it's just.
I mean, I think it's not a fun conversation to have, but like, all right, let's keep it real. I think what Lane Kiffin has done is he has clearly raised. Like, I kind of always thought regular season wise, the ceiling for this job was 9 wins. In my lifetime, that's what it was. Like, I've seen multiple coaches hit 9 wins, but I didn't really know if it could get above that. I think what Kiffin has shown is you can get 1 win better than that. And I think that speaks to, like, the difference between average coach in 1 game. There's very few coaches that are truly worth 1 game. And I think he's proven that he is. The question then becomes is, how realistic is it for Ole Miss to go from best of the rest to playoff program? I'm not saying that it's not possible, but
but again,
you're in the playoff next year.
Next season there is 12, and so I mean,
okay, but I guess I should say national title.
We would be having next. Yeah, right. That's a good point, Jeffrey. The conversation we would be having right now, a year from now, had tonight happened, is
Ole Miss or Missouri for the last spot.
Hey, how much damage did Ole Miss do to their seeding? But to your point, Jeff.
Now the other question though is, would Lane have coached the game differently? Because I will give Lane this.
Yeah.
Chase and I talked about this on Thursday. Like, what would be one of the reasons you would want to bet on Georgia? And it ended up being an easy bet. Lane coached that game to win. Like, everything they did, like, he went for it every time. Like, and the problem is when you do that, that brings blowout into play. Would they have coached it to try and keep it a little more close? I don't know.
But the one thing you would have walked away from tonight was, hey, we might make the playoffs, but boy, we run into Georgia and we're toast. Not winning there.
It's part of the reason why, like, I'm totally fine. Give me more meaningful football. I love football. Give me more meaningful football. But to act like the 12th team in the country is on the same playing field as the actual national title contenders.
Yeah.
I mean, because the reality is, I think if every other team in college football plays Georgia tonight, Georgia beats them and probably beats them handedly by at least 2 scores, probably beats everyone tonight by 3 scores.
Yeah. I mean, I watched Michigan, Penn State. They would have beaten the hell out of Penn State. I mean, It would have
Like,
been
look at
40
it
something
in the 4-team playoff era where we're cutting it down to 4. I think it's like 60% of the games are 3 touchdown games.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
no
will
argument.
lend itself to a more fascinating conversation too, right? Though, like you pay Lane Kiffin to make the playoff, right? Like if you pay him $9 million a year, you pay him to make the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
But as a long-suffering Titans fan, I actually watched the Titans win a playoff game and then still fire their coach. Like, how much value does that add after 2 or 3 years? Like, you're the 12th or 11th or 10th team that makes the playoff, and then you get blown out in the first round. You know, how much at the end of the day, when you get 2-3 years into this 12-team playoff thing and you're the 10th or 11th team that made it and you get blown out, like, just how much job security does that save you? I'm fascinated to see that in the first 3-4 years of the playoff.
You're getting paid to be relevant into late November and make it interesting and fun every year. And win games.
The other thing is that no one will want to talk about. The reality is that decision won't be made by whether or not because you got to also remember this, in the first round of the playoffs, you're not going to be playing one of the top teams. You're going to be, those guys are getting buys. So you're going to be playing one of the other similar teams. So I think that probably eliminates getting blown out. And so like win game can be valuable, but really that answer is going to be determined by like how much money is the program making. If you're sitting there as a playoff team, like Lane Kiffin could go into the playoff this year if we had the 12-team playoff and they could get beat like they did tonight, and everybody at the school is thrilled. I presume this is the most money they've made in football perhaps ever. Like that's really what it's going to boil down to. It's like, are people showing up at the games? Are people spending a ton of money? What are donations? Like that's pretty much going to be what defines whether or not you're successful. It's a great sport we have, by the way. Like it's not really about winning and losing. It's about whether or not you met expectations.
Well, that's what allows teams to still have. Yeah, I mean, it's what keeps the sport afloat when you have 130 teams. Everybody has.
And it's not a fair playing field.
Yeah, of course.
Got any parting thoughts?
Dart's going to play against ULM next week. He is going to start and play until the game gets out of hand.
I think you're right.
I'll put a hundy on it right now and not feel weird about it.
I'm good. I'm just hoping you lose.
What if we see what we've seen in the inches? Guy could have finished the game, and then all of a sudden on Monday he's in concussion protocol.
I mean, possible.
Yeah, so what happened there? Because I heard collarbone and concussion, and if you watch
collarbone issue apparently because there was just no sign. But I mean, I
it
thought
wasn't
he went
concussion
out for a
protocol
second.
because there was
I'll
like
be
10
honest,
seconds
right
where I was
when
like,
it
"Is this guy dead?"
His eyes were not, even when they sat him up, his eyes
That's
were
what
not
I
open.
saw too. I was like, "What is going on here?"
Like, they can do the whole, well, you don't know, like medical. No, it was on television. We saw it. His eyes were not open.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, but
my Rainbows 13-3. Don't let the Rainbows get hot on the island. Yes. Do you know what kind of balls it takes to bet against the Air Force on Veterans Day? To be clear, it's barely a branch of the military.
Oregon 22-14 at the half in Eugene.
Caleb Williams has actually made a few plays to keep SC in that one. He's had a hell of a drive.
He's very good.
Yeah.
Dan Lanning, I'm telling you, they are so much better than everyone else in the Pac-12, but he coaches so many of these games as if they were like 3 touchdown underdogs. Like, just, you're better than them. Just kick the freaking extra point. Like,
the next Alabama coach, Jeffrey.
I think long of that if I were Alabama.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that I give him credit, he does fit our profile of dude knows how to get players.
He does. And after watching Saban today, I'm not convinced Saban's anywhere close to checking out. I'm
back to my original stance. He's gonna die on the sideline with some honor. He's just gonna go, like, there's gonna be some moment he's just gonna go down and that's gonna be it. We're gonna Commodus in Gladiator. Like, he's just gonna leave he's going to leave the arena, but he's going to die on the sideline with some honor.
Yeah, he was pretty intense today. His team was dialed in.
He got a fresh hair dye job. Did you see that? I've never felt better than making that bet than when I saw him this morning when they did it on game day, and he's got the fresh hair dye job, and I'm like, that's ready for a playoff push. That's a man that's going to run it up today.
That's not his natural color at 70-something years old.
No, it turns out your natural hair color is not the same color of a Dr. Pepper can. Like that hair color doesn't exist in nature, but like guys in their 70s that color their hair all have the same hair color. Like it's like not brown, it's not red, it's somewhere in between. Like it doesn't exist as a natural hair color, but like guys in their 70s all have it.
He does a better job. Coach K at the end looked like he had a 747 just take a piss on him for 10 minutes. That shit was jet black.
Well, but then he got away with it for so long because like he was able to do. By the way, I hope he shows up at more games. When he was back last night and I saw that video of him right after the Arizona kid made the shot and him just in typical Coach K spoiled loser fashion, just get up and leave. I was just like, oh my God, I've missed him so much. I missed him so much. I need him back. I need him in every game. I can't hate Duke anymore. I need him back. And then I felt something that I hadn't felt since he walked off the floor and didn't shake hands with North Carolina on the Final Four game after losing.
Yeah, because it's hard to hate Shire the way that it is.
No, he seems like a good dude. Like,
yeah.
Brian, any parting thoughts?
No, they'll go 10-2. Is the Citrus Bowl? Where is that? Where
Orlando.
It's Orlando.
I'm probably out on attending that. I didn't have a great time in Orlando. I thought that stadium was a dump.
It is.
Bad part of town. Wasn't a big fan of Orlando, but maybe they go Cotton or something. I'll probably attend.
Brian, can I interest you in another alternative?
Yes.
This is called the Big Jeff formula. You only go to the Citrus Bowl on game day. About an hour and a half away, there's this magical place called Stream Song. 3 gorgeous golf courses, great hotel. It's only 90 minutes away. Go do a golf trip for New Year's. You don't have to leave, and then just drive to the game and drive back.
Okay, so I like the way you think. The first time I went down to Orlando, I was
for the record, it's not the way I think. It's the way my dad thinks.
It was the first time I was covering football. Our Airbnb, which was in an absolute dump of a neighborhood, flooded. Then we started walking to the stadium from where we're supposed to park. And I'm like, I'm glad I locked that. We should probably get crowbars and stuff just to make sure we don't actually get mugged. I'm walking to the stadium like this is a real sketchy area. So I'll give Orlando a second try if I can do the Stream Song trip. That seems like a way better way to approach it because that first time I was like, I'm out. I'm out on Orlando.
Not great.
From a media coverage standpoint, the only value in the whole week leading up to a bowl game is that we would get Golding because bowls make coordinators available one day. That's he would be worth talking to at this point. And then you get some of the players where you could ask about are you leaving or not, and are you going to get in the portal, and they all give you a no answer, but at least you can say that you asked. Other than that, it doesn't have just like a ton of like coverage value, but you have to do it because everybody else goes and writes 7,000 stories on
everyone.
I mean, we want to talk about New World. What is the value of bowl games in the New World going to be? I mean, if you don't make the 12-team playoff,
meaningless, more meaningless than they are currently meaningless.
And now they're it feels like we're just going to keep going, and because as Neal's pointed out, they're going to go to 12. Eventually, they're going to go to 16. Like it's just going to.
But they'll keep playing the bowls because ESPN and the people they like the bowls. They want to put something.
Yeah. They need the content.
The bowls will be part of the playoff. They'll use them.
And then they'll have the other ones. I mean, I'm fairly convinced that for some of these teams that when they go to 16 and you lose a first-round game, you'll have the option of going to a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, more football.
Hey, fellas, y'all want to go to a bowl? Everybody's like, no, I'm good, Coach.
Coach, I've been in the portal since, I don't know if you know this, October.
Yeah. No, I'm out.
Nah, that's a no for me, dog.
But it's money, so. All right. What was the final 51?
52-17.
52-7. Georgia beats Ole Miss 52-17. Again, we've been brought to you by DeadSoxy. Elevate your game day look with socks that financially support the Rebels. You can sign up for a sock subscription, get the exclusive Juice Kiffin sock free. You see it there on the screen. Go to deadsoxy.com, choose a subscription to receive the latest in Ole Miss styles every month or at an interval that best suits you. Once you sign up for your sock subscription, DeadSoxy will send you a free pair of Juice Kiffin socks that are only available to subscribers. So take the next step, upgrade your socks, elevate Ole Miss, and as always, stay soxy. Thanks to them for sponsoring us. We have some content up at rebelgrove.com. I'll put Lane Kiffin's press conference up momentarily, so we'll get that to you as well. Jeffrey, thanks for all of your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Brian, yours as well.
All right, guys. Be
Yeah,
good.
be good. Good to see y'all.
We'll be back on Monday with another week of podcast as we get ready for ULM at Ole Miss. 2 basketball games this week, recruiting, and lots more. For Chase, I'm Neal. Until Monday, take care.